Good afternoon. The problems veterans with PTSD face each day points to the need for virtual reality therapy as a required resource for these veterans with PTSD. According to an article from Wharton University, at least 20 veterans commit suicide daily in the United States due to trauma and misplacement after service. Further, what is currently required for these veterans combating this PTSD is structured interviews, questionnaires, and medication. These requirements allow for improvement of some PTSD cases, but the more severe PTSD cases do not fully improve because specific triggering memories aren't targeted. These problems lead me to ask the question, should the Department of Veterans Affairs require virtual reality therapy as a required resource for veterans with PTSD? What exactly is virtual reality therapy? This therapy acts as a memory stimulant due to its simulating structure. A recreation of a specific setting is constructed and triggering memories become present in order to expose the patient to the scene where that specific memory isn't harmful. The scene that veterans are exposed to can be personalized due to technological advancement. As said by Jane McGonigal in her TED Talk, this virtually unprecedented human resource that is technology is utilized through this modern therapy. Because this therapy targets specific fear and emotions, there is a new introduction to what this fear is composed of, causing an extraction of this triggering memories that veteran PTSD is rooted on. This allows for effectiveness in a smaller time frame and a more long-term effect. The first solution to this problem is keeping the current treatment. The CAPS-5 PTSD scale is assessed to veterans to first determine the severity of their PTSD. Following their score, targeted therapies, medications, questionnaires, and interviews are assessed. The limitation of these therapies is that the root of the problem isn't targeted. The majority of veterans end up going through a relapse of symptoms and have to go through more therapies, both prolonging the process and creating a difficult reintegration process. The second alternative solution to this issue is therapy administered in only the larger VA hospitals. The problem with this solution is that the majority of veterans would have to travel to receive this care. This would be a more expensive approach to the problem and isn't completely ideal. The idea of traveling for treatment for some veterans can be seen as a sign of weakness. Research indicates that these service members actually see this traveling as a weaker mentality. Due to distance, it is also possible that they would opt out and decide to tough it out. This would both prolong the recovery process and create, again, a harder reintegration. The best solution for the problem is virtual reality therapy as a required resource. In a study found in Digital Medicine, it was found that reductions in opioid utilization, length of stay, and additional reimbursements provided a cost-saving method that allowed for virtual reality therapy to be cost-effective in all of 89.2% of the trials. This resource would be in addition to current treatments in order to ensure a well-rounded approach to the betterment of PTSD in veterans. Because physicians are already equipped with training to facilitate these veterans, they would already be available to assist in distributing this said therapy. Finally, this would be instilled through funded systems, reimbursements, and grants all through the Department of Veterans Affairs. In this hypothetical situation, Veteran A receives an 106 on the CAPS-5 PTSD scale. He went through talk therapies, took the questionnaires, and even took the medications. As his PTSD symptoms began to fade, he also began to fade away from these therapies. Because of this, his symptoms decided to relapse, and he now has to go through the same treatment again, prolonging the process. Veteran B, on the other hand, had received the same score of 106. He endured the same treatments as Veteran A, but he had virtual reality therapy in addition to those treatments. As his symptoms started to fade, he decided to push back his therapies, and he did not go through a relapse. He retested, and his CAPS-5 score was 56% lower. These results proved a significant decrease, as well as a more permanent solution. The limitations of this solution begin with funding uncertainty. Because funding is through reimbursements, grants, and funded systems, this approach wouldn't necessarily be strongly implemented, causing this uncertainty. Another limitation, veteran blindness, causes a decrease in the number of veterans that can benefit from this approach. If blind veterans were to receive this therapy, triggering sounds would be heard and possibly making these symptoms worse. For these patients, this solution wouldn't completely be ideal. Healthcare availability also isn't completely in reach for all veterans. This limits more veterans to receiving this ideal treatment and hinders widespread improvement, and this could ensure. The implications of this solution would offer a positive result. Personalization is available for each case, considering the technology at hand. Following this path, a path to reintegration is drawn. Because this therapy is cost-effective, targeting, and modern, the veterans gain access to an improved life, a life that they deserve. Finally, making a change in the betterment of veterans is necessary considering the amount of sacrifice they have put forward to ensure our safety and togetherness. Through this approach, a path to betterment is found, and veterans can find a more long-term solution to their illness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll ask you 2 oral defense questions. The first one is, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use? Why did you choose not to use it?
Through my research, I used cognitive behavioral therapy research, and virtual reality therapy is already a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I realized that incorporating the specific different therapies wouldn't add to my presentation, and knowing already how strongly impacted virtual reality therapy can be, utilizing just one and not showing the altering methods isn't viable for this specific solution. And from only incorporating virtual reality therapy, I can stem other research from that and know how to strengthen and implement that into this current solution. And that's why I chose to not use cognitive behavioral therapies and the other therapies into my research.
Perfect, thank you. My last question for you is to explain the level of certainty you have about your conclusion, solution, or recommendation.
The level of certainty I have of my conclusion/solution is that I feel it could be very effective if certain things are more explored, such as healthcare availability for veterans. And some of my research showed that half of these veterans in the United States don't even receive the healthcare. So if more research and more studies and more solutions were drawn to ensuring more healthcare, this solution could be strongly implemented. And furthering that, I feel that alternative funding methods could implement a stronger sensation of what this solution could improve for veterans, and definitely it would not cause the uncertainty as said in my presentation.
Perfect, thank you so much.